Is it just me, or is the lore of Netrunner getting darker and darker with every pack? It's pretty scary. I think the card developers are getting too absorbed into this dystopian future and are printing cards that are so dark. First you have Faust with the Pact and the Skull, and now you have DDoS. DDoS is actually a common computing term, but when you look at the flavor text, it's about zombies and them clawing at the outermost wall of your server. It's pretty nasty, isn't it? Well, they're back to be played together in one dark, horrible, disgusting deck. And that's what I've came up with today. All packaged under an ID that's Max. So basically, Faust is the main breaker. You use it to get through remote servers, and you use it to get through RND as well. The biggest interaction here is DDoS with Keyhole. What that does is it allows you to keyhole during a turn and then check archives, all while ignoring the outermost piece of ice on both RND and archives, and that's a pretty huge deal. So let's hop into the game. I'm up against HB. Been seeing lots and lots of Engineering the Future nowadays, and it's a very annoying deck to play against. Annoying ID, because you just can't suppress them. So I start out with a pretty amazing hand. I have 2 clone chips, 2 I've Had Worse. I've Had Worse is awesome in this deck because it allows you to fuel your Faust. Clone chip is great for Parasite Recursion, where when you're playing Max, you don't get to draw clone chips every game. This game I'm going to get at least 2 clone chips, which means 2 Parasites, and that can't be a bad thing. To make things better, I immediately draw into Data Sucker into Dirty Laundry, which allows me to charge up my Data Sucker and gain more money. So I'm off to a very roaring early start in terms of credits. I have 10 plus 6 on KD. This is unprecedented. And he's playing very horizontal, so I'm not very concerned right now. He's not raising any assets. He hasn't an Adonis going or anything, so I'm looking pretty good. I just need to slowly set up, and at this point I Dirty Laundry HQ. My rationale is this: I can afford to dump some cards from my hand. What I really want to do here is to snipe an agenda, because I'm pretty sure he's agenda flooded considering that he's drawing cards. He actually spends some clicks drawing cards, but he isn't scoring agendas, so they must all be in his hand. And as you look here, he's just drawing more and more cards at this point. And then he ices up HQ, which confirms my suspicions. He is probably agenda flooded. So, yeah, a legwork right here would be devastating, but I don't have legwork, and I don't really want to eat through 2 pieces of ice against him. He has 13 credits, and that's a lot for me to chew through with Faust. Knowing that HB ice, I potentially have to spend 3 or even 4 cards per ice, and that's not worth it for just 1 agenda, which isn't even guaranteed. So at this point, I'm just going to continue setting up my board state and play reactionarily to what he does. In this case, setting up an asset into a double ice remote. Do I contest it? Nope, I instead go for the keyhole and I use DDoS. This is the combo I'm talking about. With the DDoS pre-installed, I can keyhole on second click. Third click, I'm going to run on archives. Usually you run archives last click to fetch all your agendas, but in this case I'm going to run third click. Why? Because I'm afraid that the asset in his remote is a Jackson Howard. If it is, I want him to force it out. Seeing that it's not a Jackson Howard and I got 4 points, I'm going to keyhole last click and trash Jackson Howard. So this is one big benefit of playing this deck in Max as opposed to some other NR ID. You get so much speed early on, and when I'm using my influence on Lucky Finds, I'm able to set up so quickly. Notice I'm down to 4 credits now. With no other NR ID can you afford to do this so quickly. And this is a huge benefit. The corp simply cannot react to this sort of speed. When you just need to get Faust and Keyhole going and a DDoS, and suddenly you are rampaging through the centrals and you're halfway to victory. This is unrivaled. Yeah. So that's great. Now that he has an Adonis out, I want to suppress his credits because you notice all his other ice is unres. So now if I can force him to res his ice on his remote, you realize that there's no way he's going to get anything done. He cannot res anything because he's too poor. So now I can have a field day running his HQ or R&D, now that I have cards to break Faust with. So here, with 2 clicks left, I decide, do I want to run somewhere? Nope, I decide to play same old thing and then play Hacktivist Meeting. Hacktivist Meeting is in here for HQ pressure. I have no legworks, I have no one-turn destructions. This was meant to force him to discard cards should he decide to res his assets, but no, he decides to score domestic sleepers instead. And this has me worried. I did see an archer on one of my keyhole runs. I did not trash an archer, so I know that an archer is potentially coming on its way, and it's the reason why he's playing domestic sleepers. You have to be prepared for that. I do run David in this deck, and it's in my heap, so I can fetch it with clone chip on demand. Now here's the bad news. He reses a corporate town with the domestic sleepers instead. So while I don't have to worry about archer now, I have to worry about losing all my resources. With that res, he trashed a daily cast that was ticking. It had 8 credits on it, so it's pretty painful that I lost my loaded daily cast. But the worst thing is, KD Jones and my same old things are about to disappear soon. So while he's still poor, 8 credits relatively poor, I'm going to keyhole him again. I see 3 useless stuff. I know I can't keep his credits down for long, so I'm going to trash his ice instead. This should help me out more. I'm going to trash the Eli, which is really annoying to deal with as Anarch. Last click, it seems like he's not interested in resing ice, so I'm going to go for a hero run again. Now he nope, he doesn't res anything, and once again I trash an Eli. Pretty unlucky, I'm not seeing any agendas. I would really love some agendas right now. I need to close out this game before he gets too many ice on the board. This deck does not perform well at all once you get 3 or 4 ice stacked up on R&D. Obviously, Faust doesn't work well if it's a main breaker and you have to break through multiple pieces of ice. Parasite is there to alleviate the problem, but against HB where there are so many high strength ice and Lotus Fields and Architects, this is a nightmare deck to deal with. Once again, he resists an Architect against me. This is hell. I really don't want to deal with Architect. I do not have Mimic in this deck. My only solution to Architect is Data Sucker plus 2 cards to Faust. Here I pitch 2 clone chips. The reason being the clone chip into Parasite combo is pretty useless considering all the ice that's been res so far on the board. Parasucker is ineffective against these ice. Also, my stack is running out. If you've realized, the game has gone on so long that I'm now emptied my stack and I've just milled my Levy AR Lab access. With all my same old things gone thanks to Corporate Town, the only way I can get my Levy back is with Deja Vu. So that's what I'm planning to do next turn. I hope he doesn't have a Kronos project in that remote that he just installed in last turn. I assume it's an asset. If it's a Kronos project, I'll concede on the spot. Otherwise, I'll Deja Vu into Levy next turn. I have 15 credits. This is why you really need to make credits with this deck. The big problem is that now my resource-based economy is out of bounds. No daily cast, no KD Jones, thanks to Corporate Town. I could run into trash the Corporate Town, it's not worth it. I don't think it is anyway, especially if he's going to just get another one back. So my plan is to just rely on my event-based economy, which is good enough. Lucky Find, Show Gamble, and Dirty Laundry should fuel me enough for the rest of the game. Considering that I'm already set up, I do not need credits to run. All I need are cards to fuel Faust. So here I go. He places an upgrade on the Corporate Town, which I'm not concerned with at all. Corporate Town is useless at this point, whether he knows it or not, because I'm not going to use any more as resources for the rest of the game. At most, I'll just install same old thing and sack it immediately, if I have to. So here I'm going to Dirty Laundry his remote, and it's a toll booth. I want the Jackson that's in there. And here I make a mistake. I actually attempt to break the toll booth. This is a huge mistake because I'm down to 2 credits. I didn't realize that until I was into the server. Then I realized, right, I can't actually trash that Jackson Howard. Big mistake. That is going to haunt me later on. I should have jacked out, or rather let the run end after getting hit by the toll booth. Instead, now I'm down to 7 credits and I've lost quite a few cards. Still, I'm going to siege his HQ given that he hasn't been scoring too many agendas recently. This might be a good time to run HQ to find agendas and to pick up data sucker counters, which will be invaluable against this kind of high strength ice deck. Yeah, high strength ice are pretty good nowadays, huh? Now that so many people are running False Noise. It also counters this deck conveniently. And he reses an Ichi, another bloody annoying piece of ice to deal with. I'm forced to click through it. I can't really break it with Faust. So I double click, beat the trace, and now he only has 1 credit, so I assume he can't res the innermost piece of ice, and I run into Steel, the Vitruvius, to go up to 6 agenda points. So his HQ is pretty flooded for most of the game. It really is a pity that I don't have Hacktivist meeting on the board or any legworks. Hacktivist meeting would be huge because he's resing so many stuff, but That's not meant to be. So he reses a Jackson, and I'm really reluctant to run archives at this point. He might have agendas in archives, but I can't fetch it because I do not want to get hit by Cyberdeck's Virus Suite, which I know is in archives. So it's a pretty painful, dark moment. Although I'm playing a pretty dark deck of DDoS and files myself. Speaking of DDoS, it hasn't been coming up, so the best thing I can do right now is to just run, and I faceplant into a Mother Goddess. Seeing that I can't really afford to spend all the cards in my hand, I'm just going to jack out and wait for an opportune time to parasite down the Mother Goddess. I could parasite it down this turn, but I decide to spend one turn setting up instead. I have 16 credits, which is pretty nice, but I could always use more. At this point, I'm just going to hit HQ again because I assume he's flooded. Although I could be wrong because he is using Jackson Howard to clear agendas. The main motivation for running HQ here actually was to accumulate more sucker tokens. You'll see why next turn. So now I have 3 sucker tokens. If he doesn't purge virus counters, I'm going to siege his R&D next turn. And him being down to 1 credit, it should be pretty easy to get at least 2 keyhole runs off. So here he uses Gila Hands, which is doing a lot of work for him, and ices up his 3rd remote. I really don't like icing up so many remotes as the corp. Spreading our defenses thin is a very bad idea, especially against Faust. So now my Parasite is on Mother Goddess. Since I clone chipped it in last turn, it has 2 sucker counters. I'm going to double suck it down, leaving 1 sucker counter, which is important for using an Architect. This allows me to get away with trashing 2 cards instead of 3 to Faust. Keyhole. I intended to do a keyhole run here. So, yep, I'm going to rerun it, but this time with keyhole. So far, I really like keyhole much more than medium because so many people are running Cyberdeck's Virus Suites now. This guy is no exception. And Virus Purges are such a big tempo hit to any deck reliant on medium digs. Keyhole counters that. Keyhole renders you safe from the likes of Jinteki PE, and also is safe from virus purging. They have to be. The threat is always there that you will see 3 cards every turn. The problem is Jackson Howard. Jackson Howard is a huge pain to deal with. I made 2 keyhole runs and I see 0 agendas, so I'm just trashing his ice at this point. Architect's an annoying ice to deal with. I've learned that the hard way, so I'm trashing it. But I'm still not going to see my winning agenda. I believe they're all in his hand, but I can't get to it. So all I can do right now is wait while he continues setting up. And this is pretty bad news. He's up to 14 credits. He can res a whole variety of ice, and I'm down to 15 cards in deck. I need to be aware that when I run out of cards in my stack, the game is over because my main breaker is no longer serviceable. So I need to get the clone chips out to parasite down anything that comes my way, because Faust has a limited lifespan at this point. I need to be worried about that even though I'm a match point. And here I check archives to keep him honest, because he might be hiding agendas in there. Turns out he was. So he reshuffles what I assume to be 2 agendas and Jackson Howard, and I get Virus Purge from the Cyberdecks. So, well, it's not all bad. At least the agendas are back in R&D. He'll have to draw them sooner or later. Now here he does something iffy. He reses attack startup, and I assume he's getting a Jackson Howard, but no, he's getting a Director Haas. He's getting Director Haas. Installing it, and now I win. All I need to do is run that remote and I win. So I run. It cost me 5 cards. I'm going to pay the 5 cards, and I'm going to access the Director Haas and trash it for the win. What was he thinking? Really? Oh wait, there's an Ash. Whoops, I completely forgot about the Ash. So that's why the upgrade was there. You'd think he left the upgrade there so that he could protect the corporate town that was never going to trash? Well, think again. This is a steady scoring, rather a safekeeping remote. And yeah, the Ash completely screwed my plans over. I can't beat the Trace. I'm going to trash the Ash, which means that now I'm down to 1 card, 3 clicks left. I need 5 clicks to get through the remote because I have no more sucker counters left. And I realize I made a big misplay. What I should have done last turn was to clone chip out a parasite on the architect. That would leave architect at strength 2. This would mean that I can get away with 4 cards to access the remote. I started the turn with 6 cards. I can spend the next 2 clicks drawing. That leaves me at 8 cards. I can run the remote twice. Once to kill the Ash, once to kill Director Haas, I win the game. No. Instead, this small little mistake cost me the game because I'm forced to spend my last few clicks drawing up cards, leaving me with 7 cards left in my stack, and a Director Haas which he can run for the next turn with 4 clicks. Big mistake. Ugh. So many mistakes costing me the game. Well, I can only sit and watch my fate in his hands now. The fate in the hands of an ABT. Thankfully, he only finds 1 ice. It's an Enigma. So I win the game because now I actually remember to parasite stuff down. So I parasite his Enigma down. It immediately disappears. I have 4 cards to start the turn with. Now 5. I'm just going to run his remote. After drawing a couple of cards, sack 5 cards to win the game. And trash the Director Haas. Thank goodness for that. So here's the accrue analysis for the game. Not much I can talk about. The main thing from looking at all this summary is the fact that he only triggered Adonis campaign once to gain 3 credits, and even then he lost 4 credits resing it. Money was the biggest problem for my opponent because he didn't find any of his melanges. He was spending most of his time clicking for Gila Hands, which did a lot of work. I don't think, it wasn't actually stated here, but the Gila Hands helped a lot, and it actually kept his credit level stable for most of the mid to late game. But that wasn't enough, and that was the main reason why he lost. He wasn't able to res enough ice to defend against my Keyhole Onslaught. Speaking of Keyhole Onslaught, I need some help with this deck. I'm no master deck builder by any means. In fact, this game proves that I'm a pretty weak deck builder because there are so many glaring problems in my deck that I didn't notice when I first built it. This deck cannot survive on using purely Faust and Parasucker as the breakers. It needs more. Architect was a pain to break. I didn't really anticipate that, but now that I'm seeing its power, perhaps I need a Mimic or Atman in my deck. Which do you think is better? I have no idea. Atman is more flexible because it can deal with strength 4 HP ice, but it's also problematic because this deck doesn't exactly make the most money. I can't really imagine installing an Atman 4 for 7 credits this game and having to pay to break each subroutine. Is Ether a possibility? Given that I'm using Keyhole, that's another question. I'm not really sure. What about a different draw engine? Max is very powerful because from turn 1 you get 1 card per turn to fuel your Faust. You mill cards which allows you to find your Faust faster, so you get a very fast, very aggressive deck. But what if it plays better in a slower deck? Something like Valencia, where you trade early game speed for late game sheer power. You get the Wildside Pancakes card draw engine, which is twice as powerful as Max. You can still play Levy AR Lab Access to prolong the lifespan of your Pancakes Faust, and most importantly, you can still threaten anyone who attempts to score agendas early on with Blackmail. I think Valencia works pretty fine. You need to tweak the deck completely. No longer will you rely on lucky finds because now you're playing for a slower game, but it could work better. Do you agree with me? What do you think of my analysis? This is a sample of the deck that I evolved from the first iteration of Max. It's basically the same thing, but now you have different draw. You have Street Peddler to get the Chronotype and Wildside out faster. I now include Atman because I really don't like breaking Architect with Faust. And instead of Lucky Finds, we now have Career Fairs because we're running so many resources. And that could be a weakness. Now that I'm more reliant on resources, I'm more weak to Prophet Town and All Seeing Eye, both of which could see play in the near future. What do you think of this deck? Do you think I'm going in the right direction, or do you think I should scrap this plan completely? Is DDoS a good combination with Keyhole, or should I just stick to playing Max Ether Siphon with DDoS? Leave some comments, I'd like to hear from you. Thanks for watching and happy net running. Goodbye.